Hi everyone, I'm on Blake's Hill Road. I'm standing in front of the construction of the new fire station on Boston Road. And this will be, when it opens in the fall, it'll be Station One, the Fletcher Station, which begs two questions. Why Station One and why the Fletcher Station? Very briefly, there are three stations in town. This will be Station One. Station 3 is the Rogers Station located on Town Farm Road, and Station 4 is in Unanimously. What happened to Station 2? When the Rogers Station opened, they combined Stations 2 and 3 to make one station for proper coverage of the community. So why the Fletcher Station? Well, I'll give you the history of that. Let's go around town and take a look. In 1917, Company 1, or Station 1, was moved to this building behind me, which we know today as the Westford Museum, and which was the original Westford Academy. Prior to this, it was located at 16 Boston Road. This remained the fire station from 1917 to 1974. The building next door, known today by those of the Westford Historical Society as the Cottage, which houses many of the records for the Historical Society, was the dispatching office for the Westford Fire Department. Families lived here and dispatched out of this building until a permanent dispatching office was set up at the present fire station. Station 1 behind me opened in 1974 and has housed the fire department until now. It'll be moving to Boston Road, hopefully this fall. This is where the Fletchers spent the bulk of their career. Harold Sr. as a captain of this department, and Harold Jr. as a full-time firefighter. I had the opportunity to speak with Harold Jr., or Haffy, and his cousin Sarah at the studio, WestfordCAT. Let's go to that. Hi everyone, this is Geoff Hall with Around Town. We have kind of a special show today. On 24th of March last month, the town meeting voted unanimously to name the new station that's being constructed on Boston Road, the Fletcher Station. And they didn't single out any one Fletcher to name it after. Because if you look at the history of the fire department, when it started in 1908, the first chief was Sherman Fletcher. And from that time until the retirement of the gentleman to my right, Haffy Fletcher, in February, was it Haff?
January 12th.
In January 12th, there was a Fletcher on the fire department. Now there are no Fletchers on the fire department. So their contributions to the fire department over the years have been immense. Let me give a little history, as I said, Sherman Fletcher, okay?
Yep.
Austin Fletcher, your grandfather.
He was my grandfather. He was on, I'm thinking, from the time he was probably 21 until he turned 60, about 65, between 65 and 68, he was on, he was a firefighter on Company 1 in Westford Center. He used to own the house across from the Common where Conley Insurance is today.
And he ran a store there.
He ran a store out of there, and he also ran a store at one time out of Muffins on Main. It used to be the Westford General Store.
Yep.
They used to sell gasoline and a little general store.
Sure. He was famous, I remember reading an article, for raising the flag every day on the Common.
Yeah, he used to climb over the snowbanks in the winter time.
Flag up the flagpole every day.
Up until he was about 85 years old.
Sure.
When they installed the light on the flag and it didn't have to be taken in, right?
Yeah, as I said,
That's right.
very famous for that.
Yeah.
I think he flipped the switch on the light.
Yeah, I think he did.
He did, as a matter of fact.
He did. I
I'm
remember
pretty sure.
that.
Yeah.
Now, so there's Sherman Fletcher, there's, and we talk about Company 1,
Yep.
okay? So people understand
Yep.
there are 4 companies in town.
There were 4 companies in town. When they opened up the Rogers station, they combined the Ford station
And the Graniteville station.
Graniteville station into one. So right at the present time, they're operating on a 3-station model, and that's what they're kind of building off of for the future of the town, is
Okay.
a 3-station model fire department. And when they located the fire station on Boston Road, one of the things that the architects first did when they were looking for a place to site the fire station, they tried to map out the town so the response to each of the areas of town would be about the same.
Okay.
To make it into to meet the NFPA standards for response time of under 5 minutes. And one of the biggest problems was the Parker Village section, where there's really no coverage.
Mm-hmm.
When they did the study, they said the ideal spot for the fire station would be where McDonald's
is, sure.
on Route
Yep.
110
Yep.
Littleton Road.
Because that would have been central, covered Parker Village,
right,
covered
yeah.
that area of town.
And covered the center. That way the other 2 stations could cover the
Mhm.
town. So where they built it on Boston Road is pretty close to where the center is. And
Well-
actually, just going back from some history, when I used to work on the highway department, the actual center of town, geography-wise, is where the pumpkin patch on
Yep.
on Graniteville Road.
On Graniteville Road, correct, absolutely. Where you come down Graniteville,
Yeah,
turn onto Cool
Cool
Spring
Spring.
and the pumpkin patch where the community gardens are.
Right.
That is the center of town.
Okay, yep.
That's the geographical center of town.
Mm.
Getting back to the fire department, a little bit of the changes you've seen, Happy,
Yeah.
okay, and your dad. Now,
oh,
your dad
My
was
dad was
yeah.
also on the fire department. He started when he was back during World War I believe it was World War II. They let the high school, the seniors in high school, be on the fire department because there were so many men away at the war that they could leave class if there was a fire because there weren't people around. So he started when he was 16, and he and Carly Rooks, who was a captain in
Down in
Forge
Sure.
Village, and Chief Rogers, and a few others got the notion back in 1971 to start redo the
Auxiliary department?
the junior fire department,
Yeah.
and bring that back on and start bringing some training,
Yeah.
getting some people trained to be
It
called
worked out
firefighters.
pretty well.
Yeah,
Joe Tagg,
yeah.
Dan Britko, yourself,
Myself,
I think Richie
Dave,
Rochon
yeah.
at one time,
Dave O'Keefe,
Dave O'Keefe.
Mark Velcourt.
Yeah.
There's quite a few of
And
us.
these are present
These are
firefighters,
full
present
time.
officers, sure.
Yeah, full time. Joe Tagg is the chief of the department now. Dan Bricko is the deputy chief. Dave O'Keefe and Mark Velcourt are captains.
So people understand, you talk about the modern fire department. When I met you, Happy, we had just moved out of where the Western Museum is.
Yeah,
That was the fire department up to
Right.
1974.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
That I didn't know.
yeah.
my wife and I moved into
the cottage.
the cottage to take
Yes.
over the dispatching
Yeah.
duties. And we were there from 1975 to 1978, and this is where I
Yeah.
met Happy.
Happy.
Because the deal was, talk about rent-free, all
Yeah.
utilities paid, 72 hours off per month,
Yeah.
okay? And my wife at the time, Marilyn, was the lead dispatcher.
Yeah.
But if she went out in the evening, I would fill in.
Yeah.
Or if we went out,
Yeah.
we called guys like you, Happy.
You're right.
Yeah.
Um,
And you were a young man of
Yeah.
21 or 22
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, well, I remember it goes all the way back to the St. Onge family. Jean and George St. Onge
Sure.
were there forever. Their son Richard, who was one of my best friends.
He passed away in a fire.
He passed away in a fire in Chelmsford. It was his wife's best friend's farm that was
Oh,
burned.
no.
You know, and Happy, that shows not only but the brotherhood of that department and the feelings firefighters have. And this was 1971, but you can see the emotion it brings out. Yeah, St. Onge's. When you talk about the store, they ran the store over into where
Richard ran
Muffins
the
on
store.
Main is. Yep, Muffins on Main.
He used to
and I'm
live
sure Richard was key in training you.
Right.
For
He used to. He and I'd go into Boston sparking fires, and he'd call me up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's go to Boston. There's a 5-alarm fire going.
Well, you went beyond that, Happy.
Right.
I mean, you talk about that. Hazmat.
Right. I was on the state hazmat team from the inception in 1980. It resulted from a train accident in Somerville in 1980 that caused 2 trains were passing in the train yard in Somerville, and they struck a tank, and it was acid vapor leaking, and when they were putting water on it, it turned the vapor cloud turned into hydrochloric acid, and it destroyed all the Somerville fire apparatus and destroyed all the surrounding apparatus that responded to the fire.
So what has happened, they formed hazmat teams, and whenever there's a chemical problem, we'll say a spillage on the highway. More recently, I just remember seeing you once again.
On 495.
495, right.
That was just before I retired, December 27th. A tanker truck rolled over, oil tanker truck rolled over on 495, getting off at 119 in Littleton. And it rolled over on top of a car. I was actually on duty that day at the fire station. We responded and worked with Littleton, freeing the victim.
Now,
And hazmat, with the hazmat, it turned into, first it was like chemicals and stuff like that, and then in 2000, when we had all the white powder, we turned into handling biological incidents, and now they're actually responding to a lot of the fentanyl incidents.
Harold Fletcher Sr., your dad,
Yeah,
water superintendent,
he was water superintendent.
captain of Company One,
Yeah,
ambulance fund.
right. He was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think people,
That was a huge benefit to the community.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
it began in the 1940s
And
in conjunction with the 4-H, I believe.
well, originally it was the fire department started it in the 40s, and in around 1963, 62, when they started the fund, because the ambulance was the 63 that they bought, they had joined forces with the 4-H Citizenship Club,
Okay.
who assisted the fire department in going around door-to-door collections. I remember going door-to-door to collect money for the ambulance.
And for example, and I had some contact with this, being in the dispatching office, but people coming in and leaving money after, because it was free.
It was a free service
It
in
was
town.
a free service in town, okay?
I know that was a real source of pride for
and
everybody.
a real source of pride. And I'll tell you, when the switchover came, it came with some resistance.
Right.
But financially,
A necessity.
It was a
insurance,
necessity.
the insurance companies drove it that way, I guess.
Well, what would happen was if you had to charge with the insurance companies. You either had to charge everybody or nobody.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where financially it needed to be funded to sustain keeping the.
But there's still an ambulance fund today.
There's still an ambulance fund today. It's not as
active?
It's not as active. We still meet. We meet. I'm on the board of directors. There's 5 of us on the board of directors. Myself, Peter Denachek, Bob Benoit, Bob Doyle, and former Chief Rochon. And one of the paramedics comes and tells us what the needs are, and what most of the money that it brings in now is like older residents of the town have money when memorial, if making a memorial in somebody's name when they pass away is basically what the money comes from. But we buy several things for, you know, we can't
Equipment
do
for the
ambulance. Like one of the biggest problems that they were having was when they switched over to the paramedic program. The ambulances had to be equipped with those guidelines, what the stuff, the equipment had to be. And when we first went to it, if you took an ambulance out of service, it would take probably an hour and a half, 2 hours to switch stuff out of the ambulance to put the ambulance back in service. So with the ambulance fund, like I think 2 years ago, bought the equipment, so the basic equipment, so we didn't have to take the time to change so much stuff out.
You're the last in the fire department.
Right.
What's the last Fletcher? You said you got a cousin, Kenny, who you think his son is in
I think
town?
his son is, I'm pretty sure his son lives on Hilda Street.
Yeah. We're
There
getting
was a
close to
fire.
wrapping it up here, Happy. What's your best memory?
Um,
In 20 seconds.
my best memory, 20 seconds. Just seeing the changes in town. Like I remember before they put 495 in, when they had Boston Road closed. There's actually a house on Lowell Road that was moved from where the state pit on Boston Road is. It's still there today.
Still there today. Sarah?
Best memories? You know, I grew up with family all around. You know, cousins and grandparents, and you know, getting off the school bus, and my brother would ride me home on a horse or on a snowmobile. You know, George would drive the school bus I went to school on. You know, just having the family around. Saturday night suppers on my grandmother's lawn. You know,
And, you know, we barely touched upon George, and what a great contribution. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when this Station One opens this fall, it'll be rightfully named Station One, the Fletcher Station.